So what kinds of help can you provide, to people arrested for DUI? I mean, you mentioned a couple of them, possibly reducing the offense to reckless, or, can you help mitigate fines or DUI classes?
Sure.
Or
Yeah, a first offense DUI in Indiana carries a fine of up to $5,000 and imprisonment for up to a year. Now, it would be exceptionally rare that somebody, even if they went into court with no lawyer, would get anything like that. But I always say, when I was in college, I had cancer and I didn't try to cure my own cancer. It's absolutely ridiculous for somebody to try to go in and represent themselves on a DUI when they're facing their insurance rates doubling or tripling, when they're facing the loss of their license, when they're facing substantial imprisonment. So all of these things are things that at least I know how to handle and how to negotiate with the prosecutors and how to best represent my clients to see that there's the least harm that comes to them.
Okay. Well said. I guess historically, what percentage success have you had in reducing some or all of these potential penalties for your clients?
Well, what I can tell you is that I've never had a DUI case in 26 years where my client got maxed. And that's not bragging, that's just reality.
Right.
These laws were written to try to seem tough, but when it actually comes time for sentencing, it would be very rare. Somebody could piss off a judge, that could certainly happen, but it would be very rare unless they have an absolutely atrocious record that they would get maxed out. And so I would say that in virtually every one of my cases, I succeed. Now, that success may take the form of winning at trial and having the charges dismissed completely. It may take the form of having a number of other charges that accompany the DUI, because normally people don't go out, get in a car drunk, and just commit a DUI. They may hit a mailbox and run, in which case they're looking at fleeing the scene. They may run from a police officer, in which case they're looking at resisting law enforcement. So there typically are a variety of charges that accompany the DUI.
Okay.
And so that's another thing, is that we're able to get most of those other charges dismissed. We can negotiate the fines downward, the jail time. Frequently, we're able to get our clients put on home detention instead of serving lengthy terms of imprisonment. And so there are all sorts of things that I can do for somebody.
Okay, good to know. In general, is it wise to take a DUI case to trial or to plea if you have a non-aggravated set of circumstances, if everything seems somewhat simple?
A tough question to answer, because it depends on all of the various factors that we've discussed. It depends on whether the breath test was administered properly, whether the machine operator was certified like he's supposed to be, whether the chain of custody was done correctly, whether the original stop was legal. And so there are all sorts of things that go into evaluating whether or not to take a case to trial. So that's a question that, without looking at a specific set of facts, I don't know that I could ever answer whether it is preferable to take a case to trial or not. It is very fact-specific.
Okay. So what have you learned about people's behavior and their reaction to being arrested and prosecuted for DUI? What kind of insights have you gained into this whole process over all these years?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I've learned is that the police really don't respond too favorably to people saying, look, my uncle is a former state trooper, and if you arrest me, then you're going to end up going to jail. They generally don't care about things like that, and you'd be surprised how many times people try to threaten police officers into not arresting them.
Really?
It doesn't work. I've never in my life seen a cop who said, okay, you win, go ahead home, you can drive drunk, even though, I know that you're weaving all over the road. There are all sorts of kind of tricks of the trade. And one of the reasons that anybody that is arrested for DUI should hire a lawyer, and hire a lawyer that's been doing this for a long time, is that it is people like me and many other very good DUI lawyers across the state of Indiana that will know what to look for in evaluating these reports, in talking to police officers, in deposing lab experts and things like that. We know the kinds of things to ask and the kinds of things to look for that can help our clients.
Okay. You may have answered this, but is there a particular story that you keep hearing over and over from your clients?
Well, it's all, and the police know it too. It's always, the same. I only had 3 beers tonight. I have there is a wheel that I actually have in my drawer. It's my handy dandy drunkometer.
Okay.
And it gives you a guideline of what somebody's blood alcohol level probably is if they've had a certain amount of drink over a certain period of time. Everybody's body metabolizes alcohol at different rates, but this gives you a guideline. And so if I get somebody in my office who tested 0.24 and they said they had 5 beers over 3 hours, I know one of two things. Either the machine is broken or my client is lying.
Right.
So that helps me evaluate the case. But I'll tell you one story about a guy, and it's really astonishing to me that something like this could ever happen.
Okay.
I had a client whose wife actually worked for the Indiana Supreme Court, and he came to my office for a DUI. And I was supposed to meet him here at 9 o'clock. I got to my office a few minutes before that. There was a truck parked out in my parking lot, but nobody was in here. So I waited till about 9:15, walked out to the truck, and saw somebody in the truck sleeping. And I kind of knocked on the door and got no response. And then I banged on the window and still didn't get anything. And I thought, Jesus, this guy is dead. And in between his legs was an open beer can, and dripping from his mouth was some spittle. And so I finally roused this guy. And he got up, came into my office. In my briefcase, I have a portable breath machine that I've used 100 times.
Really?
And I gave it to my client. My client tested 0.41 in my office.
Oh, my God.
Now, for most people, 0.20 would be falling down drunk, ungodly sick.
Huh.
0.30, if you could even get there, 0.30 in most cases is toxic. And my guy was driving at 0.40.
Wow.
And so I called his wife and said, look, I've been doing this for a long time and I've never had anybody arrested at my office, but your husband is not leaving my office.
Yeah.
So he came and got him, took him to the hospital, and we ended up working out that case to nobody's surprise.
Wow.
He was just a horrific alcoholic. But people, again, I've had brain surgeons that have operated on people at 0.15.
Oy.
And so if you are a chronic alcoholic, you can be, as they call it, walking drunk and appear perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So there are all sorts of interesting stories that you come across after you've been doing this for a while.
Okay. Huh. That is interesting. Do you feel that the current DUI punishments are too harsh, or are they too lax, and why do you feel that way?
Well, as you could tell from my answer to the earlier question, I don't have a problem with somebody going to jail if they were driving drunk and the police did their job. I think that people need a taste of it to see what's going to happen if they keep doing it. What I do have a problem with is, a police officer who says that they saw a tail light out when my client's taillights were working fine, and the only reason that they say that is because they followed him after he left the liquor store. And then they stop him and they test him, and he tested over the limit. Then we fight like hell, because if the police stop somebody and they're not entitled to, my client will walk. That's something that I promise my clients, that I will do everything I can to make sure that if it's a bad stop, the case will go away.
Okay. Interesting. All right. So what do you see as the future of DUI law? Do you think it'll get harsher or stay the same? Or
DUIs have kind of leveled out over time. There used to be a period of time when they were increasing significantly. At least in my state, the laws seem to be doing the trick, and so I don't anticipate the laws getting harsher. Certainly they won't get any easier. I mean, no politician in the world who wants to keep his office is going to make the penalty less severe for DUIs.
Okay.
But I think the status quo will probably remain as it is. There might be certain quirks in laws here and there. We've had to tweak our laws a bit over time. But I think that the DUI laws are fairly settled at this point, and I wouldn't expect any radical changes.
Okay. And I'm going to combine, I guess, my last two questions. What makes your firm unique in providing DUI defense, and what personal statement do you want to make to potential clients that are watching this video and considering hiring you?
Well, I think that what makes my practice unique is my honesty with my clients. And it's not just in DUI cases. I represent people charged with stealing a candy bar from Kroger to murder. And I'm always direct and upfront with my clients. And if I think that they ought to take a plea, I will let them know about it, and I'll lean on them if I think that they're making the wrong choice. Ultimately, it's their decision. I mean, they're the ones that face the consequences, and they're the ones that are paying the money. But I never sugarcoat things with my clients. And I have a reputation in this county and statewide of fighting very hard for my clients. I've been fortunate enough in my practice to have a lot of nice publicity and nice press written about me.
Okay.
And so one of the things that the media has come to learn is that there's nobody around that fights as hard for their clients as I do.
I know.
And that would really be my mission statement, I suppose, is, if you want someone who's going to charge you a fortune, then they don't need to come to me. If they want somebody who's going to roll over and have them sign a plea agreement as soon as they walk in the door, then they don't need to come to me.
Right.
But if they want somebody who's going to put a quarter century of experience to work for them and charge them a reasonable fee so that when they are done with the case, they know that they got their money's worth, then they should give me a call.